brings me back to one of our original points. We talked about safety.
Yeah.
And I just want to just kind of dive deeper into safety. Really understanding what role does safety play in the shortening of that window between discomfort
Mm.
and regaining our equilibrium.
That's deeply insightful. You're really insightful and intelligent, Nicole. It's great to
That's
talk
because
with you.
I've been devouring your work, so I'm gonna.
Uh, well, first, I think it's really great that you're highlighting the need for safety. Broadly, all animals, including us, have three major kinds of needs, broadly defined as safety, satisfaction, and connection. And safety, arguably, in some ways, is the primary need because if you're not safe, if you're about to die because some animal is about to eat you, that becomes the number one priority. And in relationships, like I've worked with many couples, if there is not physical safety in a relationship, if there's any possibility of violence, that has to be addressed first. And then we have emotional safety. So you have to establish that. Then, when that's established, then you can get to other issues. So safety is really important. And if we feel that our safety is challenged, that surges forward and hijacks everything else. So it's very important to address. Okay. So, and indicators of a challenge to safety are basically fear, anger, and helplessness. Those are primary, and physical pain is a signal of a threat. Okay. So what do we do? And I think that to cope, it's really helpful when something comes at us. And this is kind of under the heading of make a plan. It's really helpful to fairly quickly establish inside your own mind how big a threat is this. In other words, I've done a lot of things where I've never been traumatized, truly traumatized. I've had many miserable experiences. And in the mountains, in rock climbing, I've been in situations that were life and death. I've been in many situations that were like that. So I want to be kind of clear about my own background. One of the things I've learned, though, is that when people are attacking me, or if I'm in a very dangerous situation or something has gone wrong, very quickly establish, is this a mortal threat or not?
Mm.
And oftentimes it feels like it's a mortal threat, but it's really not a mortal threat. Now, there's certain things that are mortal threats. If your kid is running in front of a bus, that's a mortal danger, right? But most of the time, it's just irritating, or it's just 100 pounds or euros or whatever. It's just that, or it's just this week, right? Or it's just this relationship. So right there, that's very helpful to establish, wait a second here, I'm going to be uncomfortable. This is a big deal, but I'm going to live. I'm going to live to see the sunrise and fight another day. Like that gives you some distance from the threat. And I think that's a very useful thing to establish, including to establish, I can live through this.
Mm.
I think women as a generalization have much to teach men about endurance, and to know that um, I'm still going to be here after you jerks have left.
When I think about safety and the impact of it helping us regain our equilibrium, I,
Yeah.
I think a lot about how we respond to kids when they may be acting out their own suffering.
Mm,
So when our kids are quote unquote, because I don't really like the term, misbehaving, or they're acting out their pain or their frustration or their disappointment in a way that we think isn't acceptable,
mm,
and we respond in a manner that doesn't create safety. So we
yeah.
respond by yelling or belittling, or sometimes in a way that we wouldn't respond to another adult because we don't think it's very respectful, but we quite comfortably respond that way to a child. I'd
Yeah.
like to talk about what that does to the child's brain and mind and the entire being, from the perspective of trying to help that child get back to equilibrium, and then the patterns and the neuron connections that we kind of ingrain because that's our habitual way of responding. What are we actually doing to our kids in that situation?
Yeah. Well, so I'm a parent with two kids who are adults now, and I've done a lot of, I'm very There's a lot of research about effective approaches to child rearing. So there's so much in what you brought up here I think is really important. Um, First point is to be honest about our own reactions and to be honest about, but very careful about anger.
Mm.
Most of my mistakes as a parent started with my anger.
Same here.
Yeah. And most of my parents' mistakes with me started with their anger. And so anger is natural, but it's a very powerful force, very powerful force. And so I think it's important to be very careful with our anger, including realizing the ways in which, like I've seen your face flash with anger, you've seen my face flash with anger, just as we talk here. For you and me, it's nothing. But if I was like 4 years old and and I was with me then, it would be overwhelming. It's important to really realize that what is seems like on the 0 to 10 scale for the of adult anger for us is like a 2. It lands like an 8 on the being of a vulnerable, dependent child. So that's one comment. Second is obviously the more that we can get support from others, that we can find that village it takes truly to raise a child, uh, the more we take care of our own well-being as parents, the more able we're going to be calm and cool and collected. All right. It was when I was tired, I was stressed, I was irritated with my wife. That's when I was more likely to be not a great parent. So do what we can outside ourselves. I think that's important. Another is with children, from my theory of parenting, is a big pasture with real fences.
Mm.
In other words, often parents get involved in regulating their children in ways that are just unnecessary. So they're trying to contain the
Yeah.
the horse of the
Yeah.
child in a space that's just too small, especially given the nature of many children. Who some children are very calm and peaceful, and da, 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 da. Others they're like big broncos. Okay, maybe you have one of those. We had one of those ourselves. I won't say which one it was, but anyway. And so they need a big pasture. And when it's real, there's a real fence. And that fence needs to be consistent. Ideally, both parents and others are aligned and consistent in that real fence. And it's a real fence, and there are consequences for running into it or jumping over it. And those consequences, in my view, should not involve corporal punishment. There always are better ways. And I think but that said, there need to be real consequences. So I think asserting parental authority and the principle of parental authority, adult authority, is of course really important as well, in ways that are consistent. I guess the last thing I would just say is that I've worked with children throughout my whole career, from infants all the way through teenagers and young adults. And I think it's really important to take the long view. So
Mm.
many of my, again, mistakes as a parent were because I was too short-sighted. I was so angry about bedtime tonight that I lost sight of the relationship I was going to have with my kid when they were 20 years old. And the real question about school and everything else is, who is this kid going to be when they are, let's say, about 25 years old? Right now they're 5, or 10 or 15. But the real issue is, what are they going to be like when they're about 25 and they're starting to find their own way? Are they going to feel good about themselves? Are they going to be able to have healthy, intimate relationships with other people? Are they going to still be talking to their parents? Are they going to be on good terms with their parents, right? Are they going to acquire useful skills and abilities? Are they going to trust their own judgment? Are they going to have good judgment? Are they going to be a moral person for other people? That's what we really are working toward. And the rest of it is just details. And sometimes we need to lighten up about the grade this kid gets in school, or this particular issue about how we do dinner in our home. We need to lighten up about those things for the sake of these greater prizes down the road.
Beautiful. Before I ask you my last question, tell all
Oh,
of viewers where we can find out more about your work.
oh, thank you. Um, and have faith in yourself too as a parent. Most children turn out fine. We turned out fine, despite our parents. And I, the last thing I would just say is to really listen to kids and listen beneath the surface. again, my own errors or failures as a parent often involved not actually deeply listening to my kids, to what they really felt, to what was really bothering them, to what was really happening inside them. You know, it's
Mm.
important to listen and to be a kind of person that a kid feels safe talking with. You know, it's really important. When you have good process, you can have good product, good outcome.
Mm.
But bad process always leads to bad outcomes. Okay. Uh, I would say people could check out my website, rickhanson.net, S-O-N, rickhanson.net. Tons of freely offered resources, talks, videos, PowerPoint slide sets for all kinds of people, including professionals. Tons of material about parenting. And also, very importantly, teamwork as co-parents and intimate friendship and how to nurture yourself as individuals, as parents. Much material there. So I would just say go to my website. I also have a lot of online programs that people can check out. We always have scholarships for people with genuine financial need. Otherwise, they're very affordably priced. They're very well organized. And some of them are very small, bite-sized. Others are deep dives, like a one-year journey of personal well-being. So I would encourage people to go to my website and just check out everything there.
Absolutely beautiful. And I'll put the link in the video so everyone can
Good.
see.
Yeah.
My last question, what does it mean to you to live an empowered life?
Well, empowered, because we live a life. So empowered. Wow, that's beautiful. So what it really means for me is to recognize the precious opportunity of a human life and to claim it, to 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 claim a sense of agency and self-direction in this life, to make the most of it, and to feel that one has the right to do that, that you have the right to do that, and to feel the power in giving yourself over to the healthy currents of the river of your life, to feel the power in giving yourself over to your own goodness, your own lovingness, your own wisdom, giving yourself over to that, and the power in giving yourself over to your abilities, your your qualities and what you care about, so they live through you with tremendous power. It means
That's,
that as well. Yeah.
that's absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Rick, for joining us.
And it means empowering other people too,
Mm.
respecting their power, making room for their power, for foregrounding them. To sometimes it means getting yourself out of the way so that you can bring others front and center because it's their turn now.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for all of your amazing work. And I think for really from me, for just keeping that passion alive to help us be able to find the path to greater joy and
Mm.
fulfillment in our own lives.
Yeah.